I'm happy to say that the floor pan is in the car. It's like 99% welded. I have a couple little areas that I need to do some finish welding on, but I'm putting a roll bar in the car 2 outlets apart, so I wasn't able to complete all the welding because of the work I have to do to get the roll bar put in. But otherwise, the floor pan's in. The seat riser piece here, I have to finish welding this in right now. I just kind of have it set in there, but that'll be getting welded soon. That'll be done. Then I just have to seam seal it, paint it in a couple spots, and we'll be all set. So I'll take you around the car and show you some of the things I did, so you get an idea what it would take to do this to your car. I made this piece out of a couple pieces. It was just easier to do it that way. And what I did is, once I got them all fitted the way I liked, I welded them together here. You can see right here, there's a seam. The nice part about doing it this way is the frame rail runs like this. So when you look underneath the car, you can't tell that this is two separate pieces. It looks like one continuous piece. So, and I just did, kind of a full weld all the way around, and then ground the welds down in it, and it looks good. So, and same thing on the underside. I did a full weld on all the areas that I could get to. But so how I made this piece is, in order to figure out, because this is bends here, I didn't know how much to bend that. So I have this little gadget. I think I got this from Harbor Freight. And I just set that in there like that, and that gave me my general shape. So when I bent this part on the sheet metal brake, I knew how much to bend it. That was probably a couple bucks at Harbor Freight. To go even cheaper, if you wanted to, you could just take like a piece of wire and get your shape that way. That's actually a spoke from a bicycle wheel, so that didn't cost anything. So you can use something like that, or a coat hanger, anything, and it will help to give you your general shape, and then you just work from there. So like I said, this part is easy. It's just a flat piece with a small little bend in it. On the corner, to attach this piece to here, I just took a piece of metal, put it in my sheet metal brake, put a 90-degree bend in it, welded it all together, and welded this here and that there, and that came out just fine. So on my car in particular, mine was all rotted out right in here, which is a common area, and then it was rotted underneath here. For some reason, nobody's repopping these pieces. I don't know why. So you're gonna have to make your own, but that's where mine was rusted out. So what I did to get this shape, because this shape here is a little different than this shape up here. So how I got that, how I formed that, is I just used a piece of like 3-inch exhaust tubing, and I just put the piece on there like that, and I just kind of bent it around with my hands and just slowly worked it. And then, went back and forth from that to the car and checking the fit in this area. I had the floor pan temporarily mounted in the car, so that way I could make this piece here to fit this and get the tightest gap that I could get. So that's something to keep in mind, is when you're doing the patch panel work, it's best to have the floor pan in the car. That way you can make your patch panel to fit, to fit really nice. But that was it. I had originally made another piece, but I ended up screwing it up, so I had to throw it out. So this section here was the second piece I made, and it wasn't difficult. It was just took a little head scratching and a little bit of time, and it came out good. I'm real happy with it. Another thing that I have to do is I have to weld in the seat riser, this cross brace. Right now it's just set in there loose. It's not welded in the car or screwed in or anything right now. So what I'll have to do is get my seat and mount my seat in the car, and then I'll bolt it in the back right there, and then I will bolt the riser and the seat together, and then that'll help to position where that goes. So that's pretty simple install. Just like I said, just got to mount the seat, and then that will help determine exactly where the seat riser needs to be finish welded in the car. Now, where the floor pan welds to the inner rocker panel, you can see that I pretty much have completely welded the seam. That is pure overkill. You don't have to do that. Just the reason I did it is I felt like it would make the car tighter. So I just went ahead and completely welded it. Like I said, I'm also putting a roll bar in the car. So, because I do drag race this car quite a bit. So I just want the car as stiff as possible. So that's something that I elected to do. But you certainly don't have to do that. You could do a series of like 1-inch welds, space them out, a couple inches, and that will save you some time. But like I said, that's something I did, and it is pure overkill, I'm sure. But that's what I did. That's how I did mine. Okay, so here's the floor pan right behind the driver's seat. This is the seat riser for the back seat, and you can see the seat riser comes down and it overlaps a little bit, and the floor goes underneath it. That's how the factory did it. So I just redid it the way the factory did it. Mine, like everyone else's cars, it was rotted out in this area, so I had to cut all that metal out because it was just rusted out. So how I made this piece here, and this piece goes from the inner rocker, goes along here, and then it curves up and stops up here. I made this out of 3 pieces. This piece from here to here was 1 piece. I just cut it, measured it, cut it to length, put it in my sheet metal brake, and put a bend in the middle to make a 90. To make this part here where it curves up, there's a couple ways that you can do it. One way is to use a shrinker, sheet metal shrinker, which I don't have. But what you would do is you would start out making the piece just like I did here, take a flat piece, put a 90-degree bend in it, and then you would put it in the shrinker, and the jaws kind of bite down on it, and it puts a natural curve in that piece. And you just, shrink it a little bit and, check your fit against your floor pan. I don't have one of those. So what I did is I just took a flat piece of metal and I formed it to this shape right in here. Okay, that curve. Once I got that piece of metal formed and fitted to that curve the way I liked it, then I just stood it up on end and I welded it to a piece of flat sheet metal, which was this right here. And I just welded it all along in here. So this looks like a bend, but it's actually where these 2 pieces are welded together. So I welded it, and I think I welded it on both sides and just ground it smooth so it looks like a nice, kind of that transition. So that's how I made that. So this piece is made out of 3 separate pieces. And it turned out good. Now, my roll bar is the mounting plate of my roll bar is gonna weld in this corner, so I didn't finish welding all this yet. Once I get that in, I'm going to completely weld all along in here. Because like I said, I drag race the car and I want it to be as stiff as possible. And I'm gonna go back and go over here too, but you could normally just do some stitch welds like I did here and plug welds like I did there, and it would be perfectly fine, but I'm gonna overkill this part too and just weld the whole thing. An issue that I ran into when I was fitting the replacement pan into the car is where the replacement pan and the original floor pan in the bell housing area overlap each other. I had a gap that I needed to tighten up and get the two pieces of metal to lay flat against each other so I could weld them together. So what I came up with was I took just a block of wood, and I took a bottle jack I had laying around, then a couple extra pieces of wood like that, and I just jacked up the jack, and it pushed the pan down, and it gave me a nice fit, tightened up the fit, where then I could take some sheet metal screws like these right here, and I was able to screw that section together so it gave me a nice tight fit. And I did the same thing on the driver's side tunnel over here, and then also on the passenger side. The metal's thin enough that you can get away with that, and you don't have to worry about like bending the cowl area, anything like that. The metal pushed down real easy, and I was able to get the screws in there, and it held it nice and tight. And then same thing like on this side, I just did, repeated the process, took a couple blocks of wood or whatever, set them in there, put the jack on an angle, and then took another piece of wood, say like a longer piece of wood, kind of stuck it up in the corner there, and jacked up the jack, and it pushed the trans tunnel, it pushed that sheet metal that way pretty easily, and then I just put some screws in there and screwed all of that together so I had a nice tight fit, and it welded up real nice. So it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, the metal's pretty easy to manipulate because it's not all that thick, so I wasn't really worried about bending any of the existing sheet metal out of shape. Once I started applying pressure to the replacement pan, it pretty much laid flat right up against the original sheet metal, and then I just screwed it all together and welded it, and it came out great. So I just wanted to let you know how I got around that little problem. Once I got to the point where I needed to get the floor pan ready to be welded into the car, I came in underneath and I drew a line around, traced a line around the subframe rails on both sides of the car, and also did the same thing for the mount where the transmission cross member bolts into the car. After I did that, I came back through again, and about every 1.5 to 2 inches, I just drew a line and marked on the pan everywhere where I was going to need to drill a hole so I could plug weld the pan from the top. I used a 5/16 drill bit for my plug weld holes and drilled everything out, which didn't take very long. Put the pan back in the car, got it situated where I needed it to be, and then I went ahead and plug welded the pan all the way around, and got it finished welded into the car. The pan fits really great. The NPD pan is really nice. It went in with almost no trouble whatsoever. Each car is a little bit different, so I had to fiddle with it a little bit in a couple spots, but it was really minor. Basically, the pan just drops right in. So that was really nice. I'm really pleased with the NPD pan and the fit and finish on it. Once I got the floor pan welded into the car, then I welded the front seat riser support that goes from side to side in the car. I got that welded in. And then that was it. The floor pan is done. I just have to paint it in a few areas and seam seal it. And then the project will be done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I would highly recommend the NPD floor pan and the NPD cross brace for the seat. They're both really nice pieces and they fit excellent. So I'm really pleased with how everything turned out.